Well, it's been a while since I last did a video, and at this particular time, it's pretty important, I think, to offer an opinion about the upcoming election, which is tomorrow, on November the 8th, 2022. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Everyone is talking about how close everything is. So it would be pretty foolish of me to try to predict the outcome. But I'm hopeful. I'm hoping that there are more intelligent, thoughtful, fair thinking, fair minded, equality thinking people than there are of the current crop of fascists that are cropping up throughout the country now. This is, however, not just happening in the U.S. What is really happening is that there is a white supremacist backlash. It's an international movement. And Steve Bannon has helped to initiate it. All of the races throughout the world seem to be eager to have him come visit them, and he's eagerly done it. He's quite a racist, a fascist, a general pig, and he's proud of it. So make no mistake about what he wouldn't not do, because it would be too awful. No, he wants to sow chaos. That is his intent. So if things don't go his way, he probably won't mind it that much, as long as the consequence of it is chaos, because he believes that chaos works to his advantage. So there should be no surprise at that at all. So what brought on this particular backlash that's happening in the U.S.? I will keep it restricted to the U.S., although, as I said, it is an international movement. In the U.S., is a country which has had a long history of enslavement of black people. So it is in the DNA of the country. When the country was birthed, enslavement of black people was at the forefront and a part of the intention of the founding fathers to become wealthy through the enslavement of people of color, particularly black folks. They tried it with the Mongoloid Native Americans, and it was not so successful. They were not as hardy as the Africans. So they switched over to the Africans because they felt, and it was true, that we were more physically capable of enduring the harsh treatment which they loved and still love to mete out. So that history is a part of the dynamics that still exist today. And what are these racial, social, and political dynamics that currently exist? Well, I said the history of slavery is one of them. And following slavery, there was, following slavery and the eventual emancipation of black people, by the way, that's always treated as if there was some sort of gift to us. We fought for our freedom. And in fact, the United States of America is the United States of America because of black soldiers giving their lives and blood and sweat and tears to winning the war for the North. In fact, Abraham Lincoln, the supposed great emancipator, mentioned it 5 times that the North would have lost the war without the assistance of the African American soldiers. So, in fact, we won the Civil War for the United States. That is a fact. Were it not for us, it would have failed, and who knows whether the United States would be a United States, or a Southern Confederacy, which would be a hellscape for sure. But the truth is, the fact is, that the black soldiers won the Civil War. Well, following the emancipation, there was a period called the Reconstruction, and that saw a lot of advancement for black people in the South. That subsequently, or consequently, caused great resentment and hatred of the whites who had not only lost their slaves, which obviously bolstered their ego, made them feel really important and really superior because they are bullies, vicious bullies, and beat up the black folks, and it made them feel good and supreme, I suppose. But it just made them evil bullies, of course. But they managed to destroy Reconstruction through numerous tactics and laws, and brought about the Jim Crow era, which created lots of laws that essentially threw black people back into de facto slavery. They were not directly under the thumb and control of the white slavers, but they could make no way for themselves in the South, because if they got a job, they had to have a white overseer give them permission to get the job, and a lot of times they took the money that they made. They were just horrible, as Southern white folks have always been. And so, consequently, what followed was years, decades and decades of terror, lynching, and general injustice toward the African American. Finally came the Civil Rights Movement in the mid-1950s, which caused opportunities to open up to black people, certain amount of opportunities. And this was the Civil Rights Movement gained momentum to a huge extent as a result of the murder of the young boy from Chicago, Emmett Till. It made the whole country horrified and probably made them feel a bit guilty. And of course, they don't like feeling guilty, which is part of what's happening now. But in any case, as a result of the civil rights movement, certain opportunities opened up, and black people began to move into the middle class and move into the political sphere. And eventually, Obama won the election, to the dismay and surprise of all of the white racists. It struck fear in them, and from that time on, they have been on guard to try to push back on every kind of advancement that black people have made. And after Obama's election and the election of Biden, we now have a black vice president, the first female vice president, who happens to be a black woman. So it's like it makes them lose their mind even further. It's like they feel like they're losing control, and so this precipitated this backlash. So it's very similar to what happened following Reconstruction. As during Reconstruction, black people won numerous offices throughout the South, and it set them off into the deepest, darkest, vilest level of hatred. And what's happening now is much the same. So one should never underestimate the depth of hatred and revenge that exists in the white man's heart. So this hatred, this sense of revenge, this vindictiveness is a very good motivator. And throughout history, one of the things those with fascistic hearts have done is try to find a particular issue or group that someone can hate, which ultimately results in a win for their side, because hate can be a very unifying force, regrettably, but it is a simple fact. And if you've been observant, you've seen it pretty much all of your life. So, a similar situation has been happening in other parts of the world. Africa is starting to come into its own, although it's got a long way to go, because they're brainwashed just like Africans of the diaspora. But they seem to be pulling themselves together, and of course Europeans certainly don't like that. And they're fighting to stop this growth within the African continent. In addition to that, there are also Europeans are upset about the immigration of Africans and other people of color into Europe. And that is also making the white Europeans nervous, because they feel threatened by the immigration movement. So that's motivating them, but it's still much the same. Basically, it's about the upward mobility of people of color that's got them upset because, frankly, well, it calls into question their supremacy and their superiority. They live in a world of fantasy. And this fantasy world is a world where they alone rule, and they're always the top man or the top woman. So white women are not free from guilt in this. They manage to skirt under the radar, but they are absolutely a part of the terroristic threat that black people in particular and people of color face. They're also assisting because most of them voted for Trump. The majority of them. I have 54%, I believe. So that is a majority, although it's a small majority, but most of them voted for Trump. And of course, with this, the rise of Karens, these numerous, endless incidents show that the white woman is also pretty much in sync with her oppressive white male. These horrible people, generally speaking, they don't have the kind of violent strength their white men have, or the positions. So they're not in positions of power, so they can't affect the kind of damage that the white male can do. But their mind and their attitude are just as vicious, if not more so, than the white male. So this fantasy of superiority is obviously unjust, and it's obviously evil, because no group should have rule over every other group all the time. That's not natural. It's not that way in nature. So if it's that way in human nature, it's abnormal and defective. And something that's abnormal and defective is out of place and damaging, evil, and that's really no question about it. It's totally logical. So I do not know how it's going to turn out tomorrow, this election of 2022, but we can hope for the best and hope that most white Americans, and they are in the majority, so it sort of hinges on them. Well, let's hope that a significant percent of them are not fascistic racists and will not vote for these fascist candidates, fascist, racist candidate that will be on the ballot tomorrow. So, until tomorrow, I think I'll do another video tomorrow after the election. That will be it. You are loved. Thank you.